Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Thanks for joining me today. Got a good one for you. We're going to talk about Draymond and his new media self and the nonsense he's talking. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. Go ahead, click that like, click that subscribe, and click that notification bell on your screen. Make sure you're up to date on when we drop new episodes if you haven't subscribed already. Really appreciate that. You want the audio only, where anywhere you get your audio podcast. Make sure you share it with other people who love sports talk, and give us that 5-star review, and leave us a comment on your audio podcast platform or right here on YouTube. Helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find other sports fans, helps other sports fans find us. All right, let's get to it. Yes, indeed. So, Draymond Green, man, this guy, you know, I used to call LeBron the gift that keeps on giving. Draymond might take that title from him. Now, if you watch the channel, if you're not new to the channel, you remember about a month ago, I did a show basically talking about LeBron James's control of the media. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of the guy. Now, I'm not mad in of itself that LeBron James has maximized everything about his career. That's awesome. But the control of the media, what really bothers me when you do that, you being LeBron, when you control the media and you control the message completely, it takes away the ability to have an objective outlook on what you are and what you've done as a player and as a person. And so more especially for me as a player, right? Because what you are as a person, I really don't care. For all intents and purposes, from what I see, he seems like a really good person. He seems like a good father. He seems to be a good husband, never been in any trouble, seems to have relatively sound outlooks on civil rights and justice matters, and, you know, understands his responsibility as a guy with a huge platform. Now, with that said, what I don't like is how all that stuff bleeds over into how he's evaluated as a basketball player, because none of that has anything to do with what he is as a basketball player and how he should be evaluated and where he should be placed in the pantheon. Okay, now, when we talk about control of the media, one of the ones that I'm going to point to here is Draymond Green. Now, Draymond Green, this guy, I almost don't even know where to start, but recently he made some comments on, I think, the Uninterrupted, and in my estimation, they were crazy. So just let's take a minute, let's check those out. We'll come back and we'll discuss it.
My top 5 is LJ number 1, MJ number 2, Kobe number 3, Steph number 4, and Shaq number 5.
Okay. You got Bron first.
Yes, because what Bron has done, like when you talk about Cicely Tyson,
yeah.
Bron started in 03. By 2005, Bron was the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
In 2020, he was still the best player in the NBA. He was the best player in the NBA no matter what the game did. The game went from 2 slugs, like slow big man, to like a stretch 4 big man, to like back to 2 big man, to like big man.
Me and you out there playing the phone to phone.
Facts. And he's been the best no matter what. When you look at the teams that Bron has carried to championship or carried to the finals, MJ didn't beat the greatest team ever assembled, nor did he run up against the greatest team ever assembled every year. You look at the skill set that Bron has. There's nobody that has ever played the game of basketball that can do what LeBron James does on a basketball court. Nobody. Michael Jordan could do just about all that LeBron James does, except for he for damn sure couldn't pass like Bron.
They had a vision like that.
I love MJ. I think MJ is incredible. Like, MJ is MJ. Like, we all wanted to be like Mike. Like, I wear 23. Come on now. Like, we all want to be like Mike. But what LeBron has been able to do and how he can control a game and, like, to do it this long, like MJ retired, like this shit's grueling. Like, going to the finals year after year after year. Bron went 8 or 9 straight years.
9 straight.
Like, MJ took a break right in the heat of that shit. Bron ain't taking no break. You know what he did? Went again and again and again and again.
With different guys every time.
And again. So, for me, that's why it's Bron over MJ for me. And on top of that, the talent nowadays is way better. And I'm sure one of the old is gonna say, you out of your mind, and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. The talent is way better. Just like the talent at Apple is way better than the talent that was working at Apple in 1991.
So my thing is this, right? If you just started watching basketball within the last 15 to 20 years, you probably think LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. And I guess that's fine. He has had a career, right, which may or may not be worthy of that argument, of that discussion. I don't think it is, but that's a different discussion. When you look at him as a player in terms of his flaws, his weaknesses, the things he can do and not do as a player, that probably isn't a legitimate argument, but this video is not necessarily about that, right? So Draymond Green has LeBron James ahead of Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time. I thoroughly disagree. But one of the first things I want to point to, Draymond's blatant hypocrisy. Now, why am I saying Draymond's a hypocrite? Because a while back, I think it was last summer, Draymond was on his own podcast and he's talking about sitting back, watching the 98 finals and how what his Golden State teams would do to those Jazz teams and those Bulls teams and blah, 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 right? And one of the first things Draymond says is stop comparing errors. It's stupid. But yet every time you turn around and Draymond's making a comment, he's comparing errors and he's doing it again. Because if you heard in his commentary, when he's comparing errors, he's talking about who Michael Jordan did and didn't play against. And then he's talking about how the talent today is so much better. And he really makes a stupid analogy, which is not at all apples to apples, it's apples to oranges, when he says the talent in the NBA today is better because it's not the same. Like the talent at Apple is not the same as the talent at Apple in 1991. Now, that's a dumb analogy, because very simply put, how could the talent at Apple be the same as it is today in 1991? Because the technology simply didn't exist yet, right? So you didn't have scientists being trained the same way. They didn't possess the same level of knowledge. The technology wasn't there. They couldn't use it. So you can't say the talent wasn't the same. You can say the technology wasn't there, which didn't allow them to achieve certain scientific benchmarks. This seems like common sense, but common sense and Draymond seem to be diverging more and more. Now, he says the talent today in the NBA is so much better. I think I've talked about this numerous times on the show, but I will quickly delve into it. How is the talent today in the NBA better than it was 20, 30 years ago? It's not, plain and simple. Now, if you say on the whole players are more athletic, okay, that's fine. I'll give you that. But again, sports science, training methods, sports medicine, all that is much more advanced. So in nutrition, so all these things are probably leading to, not probably, they are leading to the human athlete being able to achieve things that we've never seen previously. And that's happening in every sport. We see it in track and field, we see it in swimming, we see it in soccer, what the rest of the world calls football, we see it in American football, right? So it's not an issue of the athletes today being better, it's an issue of them having more to work with, kind of much like the scientist at Apple that he talked about in his previous comment. Okay, cool. So now you talk about the players today being more talented. Why? How? Because they shoot more threes. They're better three-point shooters on average. I think the league shoots about 35% from three as a league, where I think in Michael Jordan's era, they shot about 30% from three as a league. That doesn't make the players today more talented. It doesn't. It means they work on shooting threes more because it's a more integral part of the game. Come on, like, this is so easy, but yet so nonsensical. Reggie Miller said, and I've said it on this show more than a few times, Reggie Miller said when he came into the league, teams were averaging 8 3-point attempts per game. Now on the high end, they're averaging 40 to 45 3-point attempts per game. They're shooting so many more threes because the analytics say that that's what you should do. And as such, players today coming up are shooting and practicing much more threes. That doesn't make them more talented. That means they focus on one part of the game more. Individual defenders are not as good as they used to be. It's easier to score today. That's a fact. All right. I did a show a while back. I talked about how guys like Jokic and Luka and Giannis will all tell you that it's harder to score overseas than it is in the modern day NBA. That was something that was never said before. That doesn't mean today's players are more talented. You're not allowed to defend anymore. The one-on-one defenders are worse in today's NBA. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. We saw it. You're not allowed to defend because of the fact that the floor is more spread. They're shooting more threes. That makes it much easier to get to the basket. Players going to the basket today aren't facing shot blockers like Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing. All these dudes played in the same era. Like, can you imagine night in, night out, you're dealing with legitimate shot blockers from the center position. And then you have crowded paints because of real power forwards, not stretch fours, hanging out, waiting for a kick out to shoot threes. So don't tell me, Draymond, that today's players are more talented. You have quote-unquote bigs today that can't go on the low block, get a post-entry pass. Why? Because point guards, for the most part, don't know how to make a post-entry pass. And then even if they do, the big who gets it can't go over the shoulder and shoot a jump hook or do an up and under and score. They lack the post moves. They lack the footwork. Don't tell me today's players are more talented, Draymond. They're not. They just work on different things. Okay, cool. So you got that. Today's players are more talented. Then he has the nerve to say Michael Jordan never played against the greatest team ever assembled. No, Michael Jordan did not. Know why? He was on it. He was on the greatest team ever assembled. Are you kidding me? He was on it. That 96 Bulls team is the greatest team ever assembled. And if you want to argue for another team that's the greatest team ever assembled, you could say the 86 Celtics. You could say the 84 or 87 Lakers. You could say, what was that, 1983, the Philadelphia 76ers. There are a lot of elite teams going through league history that could argue for the single greatest team ever assembled. So let's not do that. Draymond, you're the same guy who said that we should not compare errors. You said it. You said we shouldn't compare errors. I didn't say it, but you're out here comparing errors. This is nonsensical, okay? Then you're talking about all the things LeBron did that Jordan didn't do, and LeBron went to the finals 8 straight times, and Jordan had to take a break. Yeah, guess why? Because Jordan took a break from winning. You can tell me all you want about how many times LeBron's been to the finals, but he's still on the underside of 500. So yeah, all the finals runs, that's fantastic, but they don't stand up to winning every time. LeBron went to the finals 4 times in a row with the Miami Heat. He only won 2 of them, okay? Michael Jordan, he's been to the finals 6 times, and I'm not the lazy basketball guy who says 6 for 6 with 6 MVPs, but there is something to be said for that constant, total, and complete domination. 2 3-peats, 2-year break in between, 2 3-peats. One could argue that it would be even more difficult to take the 2-year break, come back, regain form, get your team back up to that level, and win another 3-peat. All the while, no real drop-off in your own play if you're Michael Jordan. Come on, this is ridiculous. Then we got this nonsense. Well, Michael Jordan damn sure couldn't pass like Bron. Why couldn't he? Why couldn't he? Michael Jordan, one of his best seasons, he averaged 32 points per game. He averaged 8 assists per game. He averaged 8 rebounds per game. And he was Defensive Player of the Year. And he was the MVP. Come on. That tells you in a certain system, Michael Jordan can pass. Draymond, they tell us you're one of the smartest basketball minds. You know the game so well. If that's the case, Steve Kerr's your coach. He played in the triangle. There are elements of the triangle in the system that you run. So you know that the triangle offense is not a system that allows any one player to rack up high assist numbers because of the ball movement. You know that. But when you say these things, you're talking to people who don't know basketball. You're talking to people that didn't see it. You're talking to people that you know you can get away with this nonsense. So Draymond, you got to stop this. Got to stop the disingenuousness. You got to stop the lying. But guess what? I got something else for you, Draymond. You're the guy who said LeBron came in the league in 2003. That is a fact. You said by 2005, LeBron was the best player in the league, and he was the best player in the league until now. You lied. LeBron James is a better player in the league than Giannis at this point in his career. He's a better player in the league than Luka at this point in his career. Are we serious? There were a number of years you could have said Tim Duncan was a better player than LeBron. There were a number of years you could have said Kobe was the better player than LeBron. Now, maybe if you say from 2011 until, let's say, maybe if you say until 2010 until about 2017, LeBron was the best player in the league. I don't even know if I go that far, but I think you have a much more legitimate argument. But let's get back to your original point, Draymond. You say from 2005 until now, LeBron James, the best player in the league. Well, that's interesting, because if we go back to a tweet that you posted, yeah, the internet never dies, Draymond, in April 18th, 2010, 5:27 p.m. exactly. Here's your tweet, Draymond. Now, let me preface this by saying I completely understand that over time people have the ability to change their minds, but this is a different situation because now you're acting like you didn't say this, and it flies completely in the face of what you said before, what you're saying today. So, Draymond, your post says, Kobe already beat Durant shot. He do that too, but changes. That's what separates champions from losers, and that's why Bron is a loser. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me re-say that last sentence of your tweet again. That's what separates champions from losers, and that's why Bron is a loser. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but this was in 2010. Is 2010 not located in between 2005 and 2022? Huh? Isn't it? But what is this? Draymond, you told me, but you said, see, what had happened was, what had happened was you thought there's no receipts. You thought you can't get pulled on your nonsense. But yeah, I'm calling you out, Draymond, Mr. New Media. Guess what? The old media, we're responsible for the things we say. We have to research. We have to be able to verify. We can't just get on wax and say things just for the sake of saying them. Nope. Us trained journalists, us credentialed journalists, the real ones who got trained in this and do this the right way, yeah, we're responsible. We can't just go out here and say stuff and forget that there's receipts out there for other stuff we said before. Nope, we got to be responsible. So I say all this to say, and I didn't even get into all the other myriad of reasons why we could say that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. No. My whole point on this particular podcast was to come out here and expose the nonsensical nature of Draymond's commentary. Like, Draymond, since you got with Clutch, all you are doing is running after LeBron and carrying his water. What happened to you? This is not how a man behaves, Draymond. What are you doing? I understand you're with Clutch now, but does that mean you got to blatantly lie? Does that mean you got to kiss LeBron's feet or kiss the ring? As I understand it, you got as many rings as he does. So why you got to kiss his ring? Why you got to do that? Are you afraid that if you don't come out here and say nonsense and lie to people who don't know any better, that Clutch is going to drop you? What's going on, Draymond? What's going on? All right, I could go on this all day, y'all, and I could delve much deeper into the actual LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate, but that wasn't the point here. The point was to expose Draymond's nonsense. I'll put it nicely. That was the point here. So what I'd like from you is to go ahead, leave your thoughts in the chat. Tell me, am I right? Am I wrong? Is Draymond off his freaking rocker saying this nonsense? So yeah, go ahead, do that. And again, make sure if you haven't already, click that like and subscribe button and the notification bell. And I can't wait to see you next time. And I'm out. Peace.